What investigators discovered outside the home of missing 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie may reveal something deeply disturbing about what happened the night she disappeared. For weeks, authorities have searched for answers in the mysterious case that has shaken the quiet community of Catalina Foothills, Arizona, but according to a former FBI expert, one crucial piece of evidence may already point to a chilling conclusion: blood spatter. Patterns found outside Nancy Guthrie's home suggest that she may not have walked out of the house on her own. Instead, the evidence could indicate something far more troubling. A retired FBI special agent now believes Nancy Guthrie may have been wrapped in something and carried out of her own home. Before we go deeper into the details of this investigation, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We cover real investigations and breaking developments in cases just like this. And this mystery continues to unfold, with new clues emerging every week. The disappearance of Nancy Guthrie has now entered its second month, and investigators say the case continues to raise serious and troubling questions. Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of television journalist Savannah Guthrie, was last seen on January 31st at her home in the Catalina Foothills area near Tucson, Arizona. According to investigators, Nancy had spent time with family earlier that day. Her daughter, Annie Guthrie, and son-in-law Tommaso Cioni had dropped her off at her home that evening. At the time, everything appeared normal, that there were no signs that anything unusual had happened. Nancy returned to her house as part of what seemed to be an ordinary evening, but the following day, something alarming happened. A friend who expected Nancy to attend a streaming church service noticed that she never logged in. Concern quickly began to grow. When friends and family tried contacting Nancy and received no response, they began to worry that something might be wrong. Soon afterward, Nancy Guthrie was officially reported missing. Authorities began investigating immediately, and what they discovered raised serious concerns. Evidence found at the scene suggested Nancy had not simply left her home voluntarily. Instead, investigators began treating the case as a possible abduction. One of the most significant pieces of evidence discovered at the scene was a blood pattern found outside the home. To better understand what the blood evidence might reveal, FBI Special Agent Maureen O'Connell recently shared her analysis during an appearance on the investigative program Brian Enton Investigates. O'Connell, who spent years working complex federal investigations, explained that blood spatter patterns can reveal important clues about what happened during a crime. According to her analysis, the pattern discovered outside Nancy Guthrie's home does not appear consistent with someone walking away from the scene. "I doubt that she walked out," O'Connell explained. Her reasoning centers around something forensic. Investigators call voids in blood spatter patterns. When a person who is bleeding walks through an area, their body interrupts the falling droplets of blood. These interruptions create gaps in the pattern known as voids. For example, if someone steps through blood droplets, their foot may block part of the pattern. Those blocked areas create spaces that investigators can later identify. But according to O'Connell, the blood pattern connected to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance does not show those interruptions. The droplets appear to have fallen directly downward. Without being blocked, the pattern of the blood might be concentrated in one place, she explained. But if someone walked through it, you would see voids. Those voids would appear as gaps where a foot or part of the body interrupted the droplets. However, investigators do not appear to have observed those gaps. That detail suggests Nancy Guthrie likely did not walk away from the area herself. Instead, the blood pattern appears consistent with droplets falling straight down without disturbance, and that leads to a disturbing possibility. "So for me," O'Connell said, "in my mind, she's wrapped up in something and they're carrying her out." Her interpretation is based on the shape of the blood droplets themselves. According to O'Connell, the droplets appear round, meaning they fell directly downward. When blood droplets fall straight down without motion, they maintain a circular shape. But if the source of the blood is moving quickly, the droplets often stretch or distort. In this case, the droplets appear intact. That detail suggests the source of the blood may not have been moving quickly across the ground. Instead, it may have been lifted or carried. Investigators have not confirmed exactly what happened that night, but O'Connell's analysis has added another chilling possibility to the case. Weeks have passed since Nancy Guthrie was last seen, and despite extensive search efforts, investigators have uncovered very few clear answers. The case has become one of the most puzzling missing person investigations in Arizona in recent years. And as the search continues into its second month, authorities say they are still working to understand what truly happened the night Nancy Guthrie disappeared. And as the search continues into its second month, authorities say they are still working to understand what truly happened the night Nancy Guthrie disappeared. Investigators say one of the biggest challenges in the case has been the lack of clear leads. Despite the discovery of blood evidence outside the home and the intense investigation that followed, authorities have struggled to determine exactly where Nancy Guthrie may have been taken. From the beginning of the investigation, law enforcement officials treated the case with urgency. Local police were joined by federal investigators as they began examining every possible detail connected to the disappearance. The home where Nancy lived became the center of the investigation. Crime scene technicians carefully searched the property, documenting evidence and analyzing the surrounding area. Investigators also began interviewing neighbors in hopes that someone may have seen or heard something unusual. In many cases, like this, even the smallest observation can help. Investigators reconstruct the timeline of events. Authorities asked residents in the Catalina foothills area to review their home surveillance systems, including doorbell cameras and security cameras. Footage from these systems can sometimes capture vehicles or individuals passing through an area during critical moments. Investigators hope that one of those cameras might reveal who was near Nancy Guthrie's home on the night she disappeared. Meanwhile, forensic teams continued analyzing the blood evidence found outside the property. Blood spatter analysis can provide investigators with valuable information about how an incident occurred. Experts study the size, shape, and direction of blood droplets to determine how they were created. These patterns can sometimes reveal whether a victim was moving, standing still, or being carried. In Nancy Guthrie's case, the round droplets observed at the scene suggested the blood fell directly downward rather than being flung through the air. Detail supports the theory described by retired FBI agent Maureen O'Connell. Someone had been walking through the area while bleeding. Investigators would likely expect to see a trail of disrupted droplets, but the pattern seen at the scene, it appears more consistent with a stationary source of blood. This has led investigators to consider the possibility that Nancy Guthrie may have been injured inside the home and then removed from the property. However, authorities have not publicly confirmed exactly how much blood was found or where it originated. Those details remain part of the ongoing investigation. Another troubling factor in the case is the absence of clear signs showing where Nancy may have been taken. In many abduction cases, investigators can trace tire marks, footprints, or other physical clues that indicate how a suspect left the scene. But in this case, authorities have not revealed any such evidence. This lack of obvious clues has made the investigation particularly difficult. Despite those challenges, investigators say they have not stopped searching for answers. Teams continue to analyze evidence while also reviewing tips submitted by members of the public. The FBI has encouraged anyone with information about the case to contact investigators. Authorities say even a small detail could help uncover what happened. Meanwhile, Nancy Guthrie's family continues to wait for answers as the search for the missing 84-year-old enters another difficult phase, and investigators say they remain determined to find out exactly what happened the night Nancy Guthrie disappeared. Investigators say they remain determined to find out exactly what happened the night Nancy Guthrie disappeared. As the investigation continues, authorities have been working to piece together the final hours before Nancy Guthrie vanished from her home in the Catalina foothills. According to investigators, the last confirmed sighting of Nancy occurred on January 31st. That evening, her daughter Annie Guthrie and her son-in-law Tommaso Cioni had dropped her off at her residence. Family members say Nancy appeared completely normal at the time. There were no signs that anything unusual was about to happen. She had returned home just as she had done many times before. But sometime between that evening and the following morning, something went terribly wrong. The next day, when Nancy failed to appear for her regular streaming church service, concern quickly began to grow. Friends who were expecting to see her noticed her absence. Almost immediately, after attempts to reach her by phone were unsuccessful, the situation began to look increasingly serious. Soon after, Nancy Guthrie was officially reported missing. Authorities responded quickly, launching an investigation and searching the property where she lived. But what investigators discovered inside and around the home raised troubling questions. Evidence suggested that Nancy had not simply left the house voluntarily. Instead, investigators began to suspect that she may have been taken against her will. From that moment forward, the case shifted from a simple missing person investigation into what authorities now believed could be an abduction. Law enforcement agencies began coordinating efforts to locate Nancy and identify anyone who may have been involved. Local investigators were soon joined by the FBI, bringing additional resources and expertise to the search. Federal agents began assisting with forensic analysis, digital investigations, and the review of potential leads. Authorities also started collecting surveillance footage from nearby homes and businesses. In modern investigations, security cameras can provide critical evidence by capturing vehicles or individuals moving through an area. Investigators hoped that one of those cameras might reveal suspicious activity near Nancy Guthrie's home during the critical hours surrounding her disappearance. At the same time, forensic teams continued analyzing the physical evidence discovered at the property. The The blood pattern outside the home remained one of the most important clues investigators were examining. Experts carefully studied the droplets, measuring their size and distribution to determine how they may have been created. As retired FBI agent Maureen O'Connell explained, blood spatter analysis can sometimes reveal whether a person was moving, standing still, or being carried. In Nancy Guthrie's case, the round droplets suggested the blood had fallen straight downward. That detail continued to support the possibility that Nancy may have been carried away rather than walking on her own, but investigators still needed additional evidence to confirm exactly what had happened. Meanwhile, the case began attracting national attention. Nancy Guthrie's disappearance was widely reported by major news organizations across the country. As the mother of television journalist Savannah Guthrie, the case quickly drew public interest. Many people began following updates closely as investigators searched for answers. The increased attention also brought a surge of tips from members of the public. Authorities received calls from people who believed they may have seen something unusual or had information related to the case. Investigators reviewed each tip carefully. In cases like this, even a small detail can sometimes become the key to solving the mystery. Despite the growing number of tips, authorities have not publicly identified any suspects. Officials have also not confirmed whether the blood evidence belongs to Nancy Guthrie. These unanswered questions have made the case even more puzzling, but investigators say they are continuing to follow every possible lead. Meanwhile, Nancy Guthrie's family has taken additional steps in hopes of generating new information. In an effort to encourage people to come forward, the family has offered a reward of up to $1 million for information that could help locate her. Authorities hope the reward may motivate someone with critical knowledge to speak up because investigators believe someone may know more about what happened that night. And until that person comes forward, the mystery surrounding Nancy Guthrie's disappearance remains unsolved. And until that person comes forward, the mystery surrounding Nancy Guthrie's disappearance remains unsolved. As the investigation continues, the emotional impact of the case has spread throughout the community where Nancy Guthrie lived. Residents of the Catalina Foothills neighborhood say the disappearance has deeply shaken what was once considered a peaceful and quiet area. Many neighbors say they are still struggling to understand how something like this could happen so close to home. For some residents, the case has created a sense of unease. People who once felt comfortable leaving their doors unlocked now say they are taking extra precautions. Others say they find themselves constantly checking the news, hoping for updates that might finally explain what happened. Despite the fear and uncertainty, many members of the community have also come together in support of Nancy Guthrie's family. Neighbors have organized small gatherings and shared messages of hope as the search continues. Some residents have placed candles and flowers outside the neighborhood as a way of showing solidarity with the Guthrie family. For Nancy's relatives, the waiting has been incredibly difficult. Weeks have passed since she was last seen, and each day without answers brings more questions. Investigators say they understand the frustration many people feel, but they emphasize that complex cases like this often take time. Forensic evidence must be carefully analyzed. Witness statements must be verified, and every potential lead must be examined. Authorities say rushing the investigation could risk overlooking important details. Instead, they are working methodically to build a clear understanding of what happened. Meanwhile, federal investigators continue to encourage the public to share any information they may have. The FBI has urged anyone who may have seen suspicious activity near Nancy Guthrie's home to contact authorities immediately. Even if a detail seems small or unimportant, investigators say it could still help them reconstruct the timeline of events. People with information about the case are asked to contact the FBI's national tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI. Tips can also be submitted online through the FBI's official reporting system or by contacting local law enforcement agencies. Authorities say every tip is reviewed by investigators. Because sometimes the smallest piece of information can help solve the biggest mysteries. For now, the investigation into Nancy Guth's disappearance remains active. Law enforcement officials say they are committed to continuing the search until they uncover the truth. The blood evidence discovered outside the home has raised serious concerns about what may have happened that night, and the analysis provided by former FBI experts has added another troubling possibility to the case. But until investigators uncover definitive answers, the exact sequence of events remains unknown. What happened inside Nancy Guthrie's home on the night of January 31st? Did someone enter the house and take her, or is there another explanation investigators have yet to uncover? These are the questions that continue to drive the investigation forward, and as the search continues, Nancy Guthrie's family, friends, and community are holding on to hope that the truth will eventually come to light. Until that day comes, investigators say they will continue following every lead in their effort to solve the mystery of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance.